Slow down, don't scroll, don't rush past this moment. Something sacred is happening right now, and it cannot be rushed or explained with noise. This is not for everyone. Most people will feel nothing here. Most people won't even last these first few seconds. But if something in you just shifted, even slightly, before your mind could explain why, that's not coincidence. That's recognition. Chosen one, you didn't arrive here by accident. You were drawn here quietly, deliberately, because your spirit knows when heaven is near, even when your logic hasn't caught up yet. The world is loud. Opinions, chaos, pressure, endless stimulation. But God does not compete with noise. He waits for stillness. He speaks when the soul becomes quiet enough to hear. And right now there is a holy pause settling over you, not emptiness, not absence, alignment, a deep, supernatural stillness that feels heavier than sound, almost like the air itself is holding weight. Like heaven is leaning in, watching to see if you will stay present long enough to receive what others will miss. This is not a motivational message. This is not encouragement. This is an atmosphere, an interruption, a moment that was scheduled before you clicked play. No algorithm brought you here. No notification summoned you. Curiosity didn't do this. You were summoned because something is closing and something else is opening, and your spirit was already positioned at the doorway before your mind realized what time it was. Chosen one, listen carefully. The end of 2025 is not just a date on a calendar, it is a spiritual boundary, a closing window, a final alignment point, and not everyone will cross it correctly. Some will be distracted, some will be tired. Some will mistake silence for absence and walk away at the exact moment heaven was preparing to move. But you're still here, and that matters more than you understand. Feel the seriousness in this moment. That pressure you sense in your chest, that quiet intensity that feels different from anxiety. That's not fear, that's awareness. Your spirit recognizes that this isn't just another video, another message, another voice. This is a threshold moment, the kind that doesn't come with fireworks or announcements, the kind that slips in quietly and tests who is spiritually awake enough to notice. God does not shout when making serious decisions. He doesn't broadcast them. He doesn't post signs everywhere. He waits, he watches, he observes how you respond to silence. Because silence reveals what noise hides. And right now, heaven is silent on purpose. Not because nothing is happening, but because something irreversible is being finalized. Chosen one, if you were meant to drift, you would already be gone. If this wasn't for you, something would have pulled your attention away. A notification, a thought, an urge to leave. But you stayed, and that tells me everything. It tells me your spirit is alert. It tells me you are sensitive to divine timing. It tells me you are one of the few who feels the shift before it manifests. This moment is rare, not dramatic, not emotional. Rare, the kind of moment that only happens when a cycle is ending and heaven is recalibrating positions. The kind of moment where God is not asking questions anymore, but confirming outcomes. The kind of moment where the chosen are quietly separated from the distracted, not by effort, but by awareness. You may not have words for what you're feeling. That's okay. This moment isn't meant to be understood yet. It's meant to be received. The mind will catch up later. Right now, this is spirit to spirit, and your spirit knows that something is concluding, something you've carried for a long time, a weight, a waiting, a tension that never fully left you. You've felt it, haven't you? Like you were standing in between chapters, unable to move forward but unable to go back. That wasn't stagnation. That was positioning. The end of 2025 marks the closing of a divine cycle that began long before you realized you were part of it. A cycle of preparation, of separation, of quiet refinement. And as this cycle closes, decisions are being sealed. Not emotional decisions, eternal ones. Decisions about placement, about assignment, about who is ready to carry what comes next. And here is the part most people never hear. Heaven does not chase the chosen. It waits to see who can remain still without reassurance, who can stay present without explanation, who can honor silence without assuming rejection. And if you are still listening, if your spirit hasn't checked out, If something deep inside you feels alert rather than bored, then you are proving something right now without even realizing it. This is not the time to drift. This is not passive. This is not background noise. This is a moment that requires your attention, not your effort. Your awareness, not your anxiety. Because moments like this don't repeat themselves. They pass quietly, and only later do people realize what they missed. Chosen one. You are standing in the center of a divine interruption, the kind that repositions lives without warning. And if you turn away now, you may not lose everything, but you could miss the alignment that makes everything else make sense. Some shifts only happen once. Some doors only open during silence. Some decisions are only confirmed when you stay still long enough to hear the whisper behind the quiet. So breathe. Don't rush. Let your spirit settle. Let the stillness do its work. This is not emptiness. This is the calm before movement. This is the pause before release. And if your heart is beating a little heavier right now, if something feels serious but strangely peaceful, then understand this truth. This moment is not just for you. It's about you. For a long time, you thought something was wrong with you. You replayed the years in your mind, searching for the moment you might have missed it, the prayer you didn't pray correctly, the decision that somehow disqualified you. You watched others move forward while you felt suspended in place, carrying promises that seemed to grow heavier with time instead of closer. And in the quiet moments, when no one was watching, you wondered if the silence meant no, if the delay meant denial, if the pain was proof that you misunderstood God entirely. But hear this clearly now. You were never rejected, you were early. Heaven never called your season a mistake. While you were interpreting stillness as absence, God was operating in dimensions you couldn't see. The silence that nearly broke you wasn't punishment. It was precision. Because when God sends someone ahead of schedule, He doesn't reward them early. He refines them early. You stepped into things before they were ready to hold you, before the promise had matured, before the environment could support what you carry. And instead of pulling you back, God kept you there, shaping you under pressure. Because chosen ones are not formed in comfort. They are constructed in resistance. You weren't delayed because you failed. You were delayed because what was coming required a depth that could not be rushed. While others celebrated visible victories, you were fighting invisible wars. While they were building platforms, you were being built into one. You felt crushed, overlooked, misunderstood, and sometimes completely forgotten. But none of that was chaos. It was divine engineering. Every closed door reinforced your foundation. Every betrayal removed weak connections. Every unanswered prayer trained your spirit to stand without applause. You saw people around you move forward with less resistance, less warfare, less weight. And you wondered why your path felt heavier, why your joy was tested, why rest felt temporary, why peace always seemed just out of reach. But the weight wasn't because you were weak. It was because you were carrying something rare. Heaven never burdens ordinary vessels with extraordinary pressure. The intensity of your process was proof of the importance of your assignment. If your calling was small, your preparation would have been light. You were isolated, not to punish you, but to preserve you. God had to separate you from voices that would have corrupted your discernment, from environments that would have dulled your sensitivity, from relationships that could not survive the next level of weight you were destined to carry. Others would have compromised to stay comfortable. You didn't, even when you wanted to. Even when loneliness screamed louder than faith, that endurance was not accidental. It was being observed. The nights you cried alone. The prayers you whispered when you had no strength left to speak aloud. The moments you stayed faithful without feeling inspired. Heaven counted those moments as evidence. Evidence that you could be trusted with more. Because anyone can worship when blessings are loud. Only the chosen remain loyal when heaven is silent. And you did, even when it hurt, even when you didn't understand, even when walking away would have been easier. What felt like delay was actually synchronization. God was aligning timing, people, circumstances, and you didn't miss your moment. You were being calibrated for it. The reason it took so long is because the outcome is not temporary. It's not seasonal. It's not fragile. What's coming is permanent, and permanent things require structures that can withstand pressure without collapsing. That's why the process was slow. That's why the tests were repetitive. That's why the weight increased right when you thought you couldn't handle more. Others quit when it got heavy. Others compromised when it got quiet. Others mistook silence for rejection and walked away just before alignment. But you stayed, you adapted, you endured. Even when your faith trembled, you didn't abandon it. That alone separated you. You were not being ignored, you were being measured, and you passed tests you didn't even know you were taking. The confusion you felt was not disorder. It was concealment. God was hiding you while He strengthened you. Because if He had revealed you too early, you would have been attacked before you were fortified. If He had released you before the foundation was complete, the weight of influence would have crushed you, so He kept you in the unseen. Not because you weren't ready to shine, but because the world wasn't ready to handle the version of you that was being formed. Your pain was proof that heaven took you seriously. God does not waste refinement on those He doesn't intend to use. He doesn't spend years shaping what He plans to discard. Every tear you shed under pressure watered the ground where your future will stand. Every time you resisted bitterness, you reinforced your structure. Every time you chose obedience over understanding, you earned alignment. You thought you were losing time. You weren't. You were gaining capacity. Capacity to carry authority without arrogance. Capacity to walk in favor without losing humility. Capacity to stand in influence without becoming dependent on validation. These things cannot be taught. They must be forged. And forging is never gentle. This is why the warfare intensified before things began to shift. The enemy always attacks hardest when heaven is closest to release. Not because he can stop what God has decided, but because he hopes you will abandon it yourself. Fatigue is his weapon. Discouragement is his strategy. Making you doubt your own discernment is his goal. But even that failed. You may have questioned, but you didn't disconnect. You may have stumbled, but you didn't surrender. Here is the truth you need to hear now. God is not deciding what to do with you. That decision has already been made. It was made in the silence. It was confirmed in the pressure. It was sealed in the endurance you demonstrated when no one was watching. Heaven is not waiting to see if you qualify. Heaven already knows you do. The delay was never about your worth. It was about your readiness. You weren't punished. You were proven. And because you stayed, because you endured, because you carried weight without recognition, you now stand in alignment with a decision that cannot be undone. What comes next is not a reward for perfection. It's a release for perseverance. The silence is breaking not because you demanded answers, but because you proved you could be trusted without them. Hear this with clarity and weight, because this is not symbolic language and it is not motivational exaggeration. Heaven has already decided. Not is deciding. Not will decide. The decision has been made, settled, authorized, and sealed beyond reversal. What you are standing in right now is not the beginning of something new. It is the threshold between what was prepared in secret and what is about to be released in the open. Thresholds are dangerous places, not because they are uncertain, but because they demand response. You do not drift through a threshold. You cross it deliberately or you remain behind. This is the moment where hesitation becomes costly. Not emotionally costly, spiritually costly. Because fatigue has a voice, and if you listen to it now, it will sound reasonable. It will tell you to rest later, to engage later, to commit later, to wait for more clarity. But clarity is not coming first, alignment is. This is not a season where God explains. This is a season where God activates. And activation does not ask permission from comfort. You are not standing at the start of the promise. You are standing at the edge of manifestation. Everything behind you was endurance. Everything in front of you is execution. And the shift between those two realms happens quickly and quietly. This is where many miss it. They assume the hardest part is over and disengage right before authority is released. They relax when vigilance is required. They drift when precision is demanded. And heaven does not chase them when they do. Heaven honors decision with decision. What you are feeling right now is not pressure to perform. It is the weight of assignment settling into place. A mantle does not feel light when it first rests on you. It feels heavy until you align your posture to carry it, and alignment requires agreement. You cannot carry what you secretly doubt. You cannot steward what you keep questioning. You cannot walk in authority while negotiating obedience. There is a reason the resistance intensified right before now. There is a reason exhaustion has tried to convince you that disengaging would be wisdom. There is a reason distractions suddenly multiplied. This is not random. It is strategic, because the enemy does not need to destroy what God has decided. He only needs to delay your response long enough to make you miss the window of release. And that window is not wide. It is narrow. It opens quietly. And it closes without warning. This is the final alignment call. Not dramatic, not loud. Final. The last internal decision before external movement begins. God is not asking if you are capable. That question was answered by your survival. He is asking if you are willing to move without reassurance, without applause, without guarantees beyond what he already spoke in silence. Because the next season will not respond to hesitation. It will respond to authority. You have been authorized. That is not metaphor. You have been authorized to step into position to occupy space you once felt unqualified for, to speak with conviction you once questioned, to move with confidence that does not come from ego but from obedience. Authorization does not mean ease. It means backing. Heaven is backing this next move. But backing does not remove responsibility. It increases it. This is where you choose whether everything you endured culminates in release or resets into repetition. Because alignment is not automatic, destiny requires participation. And silence does not last forever. When it breaks, movement follows quickly. Opportunities will not linger. Doors will not wait for overthinking. The world will respond to the version of you that steps forward, not the version that hesitates. Do not underestimate this moment because it feels quiet. Quiet moments carry the loudest consequences. This is where you stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for confirmation. Stop waiting to feel ready. Readiness was proven already. What remains is agreement. Agreement to move. Agreement to show up. Agreement to stop negotiating with fear disguised as wisdom. This is not a call to strive. It is a call to stand. Stand in what was forged in you. Stand in the authority earned through endurance. Stand in the assignment that survived every attempt to derail it. You are not stepping into chaos. You are stepping into alignment, and alignment will demand things from you that comfort never did. Respond now, not later. Engagement is not about a platform. It is about declaration. When you respond, you align. When you align, you activate. If this moment is stirring recognition in you, do not let it pass unmarked. Comment below with agreement. Not as words, but as a declaration that you are choosing alignment over delay, obedience over exhaustion, authority over fear. This is not superstition. It is response. Subscribe if you have not because of content, but because this is a continuation. What has begun does not end here. This is the unfolding of a season you were prepared for in private and are now being summoned to walk out in the open. And share this with someone who is standing at the same threshold but does not yet realize what time it is. Do not ask for comfort here. Ask for courage. Courage to move while your hands still tremble. Courage to step forward while your voice still shakes. Courage to obey without explanation. That is what authority looks like in its purest form. Heaven has already decided. The release is authorized. The assignment is active. The only variable left is your response. And the time to respond is now.